Good morning everyone and welcome to day 3 of our back to school event. Today is going to be focused on empowering the school, and this has been created for educators by educators. It's for IT admins and school leaders to help you transform the learning experience with Apple technology. My name is Webb and I'm the Product Marketing Manager for Education here at Jamf. And prior to joining Jamf, I was working in inner city schools in Hackney, East London, where I was responsible for the setup and deployment of both iPad and Mac in 2 Apple distinguished schools. So over the course of the event, you will have access to different areas. The live spotlight sessions every afternoon, a pool of useful resources from Jamf and our solution partners, including tutorials and case studies. You'll also have access to our networking area where you can meet and speak with other attendees, and of course, replays of all of our previous live sessions. You can easily navigate between these different sections from the home page. You will also see on the right hand side the event chat, and when you attend one of the sessions you will also have a questions section to ask your questions throughout to the presenter. A great fun activity we've got for you, not only for our back to school event but also heading on further into October, is our Rings Challenge. Anyone with an Apple Watch can participate, and it encourages you to get up and move from your desk or go and take a walk on your lunch break. All you need to do is download the Challenges app and enter the code P8JR and tap on the link below to join. Another great fun activity we've got for you is our EMEA Back to School bingo card. All you need to do is download the Keynote file and take on the various challenges and upload your photo evidence. There's some fun activities to do throughout the event to keep you occupied and have the chance of winning some Jamf swag. So let's look at today's schedule. At 3:30 we've got Cart to a la carte, where I'll be explaining more about making the most of your iPad and Mac devices in education. At 4 PM we hear from the fantastic Andrew Jewell about the Scottish Borders iPad project. At 4:30 Neil will be going through Trilbytv and the digital signage made for education. And then finishing up the day, we'll have our very own Mike Lawrence, ADE and Apple Leadership Executive, talking about asking the right questions, unleashing student inquiry. Thank you very much for joining us, and if you have any questions, please drop us an email at ukedu@jamf.com. Welcome to the first session of today, which is Cart to a la carte, and I'm going to be talking about making the most of your iPad and Mac devices. A successful IT deployment provides opportunities, inspires creativity, enhances productivity, but most importantly, transforms the lives of children and empowers student success, but it's all down to preparation. In this session, I'm going to dive into some steps to take in order to make the most of your cart of iPads or Macs and take the use of Apple technologies to the next level. So let's get going with today's session. I'll be covering the following topics, and we'll start off with the importance of Apple School Manager, what it is and what value it brings to deploying Apple devices in education. We will then look at apps, removing the clutter and the noise of an app for this and an app for that, to streamline your apps to enhance the learning experience and supercharge your use of Apple technologies. And to finish up, we'll look at the tools Jamf offers to save you time and give you the best experience that empowers student success. So let's kick off with the start of our session, and it's Apple School Manager and why it should be at the heart of your deployment. So what is Apple School Manager? Well, Apple School Manager is a simple web-based portal primarily for IT administrators to manage people, devices and content all from one place. When you're using the full range of Apple services, your students and staff will need Apple IDs, and using Apple School Manager, you can quickly create accounts to give student access to learning content while meeting the privacy needs of the school. Using Apple School Manager, you can create managed Apple IDs for everyone in the school. They have their own Apple ID, which depending on their role allows them to access certain services on their device. Apple School Manager also allows you to manage your device suppliers. When you're purchasing iPads, if you go through an authorized Apple reseller for education, what they can then do is automatically allocate your batch of devices into your Apple School Manager instance. When you add a mobile device management server, for example Jamf Pro or Jamf School, your devices will then automatically show up once purchased in your MDM ready to deploy apps and books. You can also connect directly to your school information system, but not all school information systems are supported. So if you have something like Sims or Arbor or Bromcom, you can use a third-party tool to connect straight into Apple School Manager. We'll come on to that a little bit later. Within Apple School Manager, you can also configure your locations. So if you're managing multiple campuses or multiple schools, you can actually configure which apps are purchased and which devices are allocated to each location. There's also the ability to set up shared iPad, and we'll come onto that in a bit because that's really what's going to be the focus of this cart to a la carte session. And finally, Apple School Manager is the place where you can purchase apps and books in bulk. And remember, if you purchase more than 20, you get almost a 50% discount on various apps and books. So one of the key factors in Apple School Manager is the ability to create managed Apple IDs. But what are they and what do they mean to you as a school? Well, like any Apple ID, managed Apple IDs provide students and teachers with access to Apple services and the ability to personalize their devices. They're also used to access Apple services, including iCloud, the Schoolwork App, and collaboration with iWork and Notes. And administrators and staff use them to sign into Apple School Manager. But unlike personal Apple IDs, managed Apple IDs are owned and managed by your school or local authority and are designed to meet the needs and legal requirements of educational institutions, including password resets, limitations on purchasing and communications, and also role-based administration. Apple School Manager makes it easy for schools to create and manage these accounts at scale, but managed Apple IDs do not support family sharing. Many countries and regions have laws that require schools to protect user data and restrict the ways in which they can be used. Managed Apple IDs are designed to help primary and secondary schools comply with student data privacy requirements. More about this can be found on the Apple website. A huge benefit of managed Apple IDs is the fact that each user receives 200 gigabytes of free iCloud storage, which includes backup. Each managed Apple ID also has the ability to use the iCloud Drive folder sharing. You can also use managed Apple IDs to work on collaboration features within Pages, Keynote and Numbers, as well as Notes. An Apple's Schoolwork app requires a managed Apple ID in order for teachers and students to log in. The Classroom app, however, does not require a managed Apple ID for users to use, but the latest version just been released means that managed Apple IDs support the classroom activity outside of the school. And where managed Apple IDs are used in the classroom, teachers can use their managed Apple ID to reset the passwords of students. And best of all, FaceTime and iMessage works, but it can also be restricted depending on the roles. So by default, FaceTime and iMessage is turned off for students, but enabled for staff. So let's map this out and see what this looks like with Apple School Manager at the heart of your deployment. In the center, we've got Apple School Manager, and the first thing you would want to do is to connect to your MDM server. So in this case, this is Jamf, and that's done through a token. All of your devices that you have purchased would be synced into Apple School Manager, ready for you to assign to Jamf. If you have an MIS or SIS system such as Sims, Arbor, Bromcom, you can use a third party to be able to sync data from your MIS directly into Apple School Manager. Now this will help create managed Apple IDs quickly and efficiently, but some MIS systems have a direct link into Apple School Manager themselves. Within Apple School Manager, you will purchase your content such as books and apps, allocate the number of licenses and then sync them over to Jamf. You would also create your managed Apple IDs within Apple School Manager and then put them into Jamf so that you can then deploy out your books and users to your devices. So now we've had an overview of the actual setup, let's look at how we can streamline apps to simplify the process and enhance the learning experience. Out of the box, Apple offers a rich ecosystem of apps that are free to use on both iPad and Mac. If we look at Messages and FaceTime on the top left-hand side, they can be used with managed Apple IDs as explained earlier. You've then got calendars, reminders, mail and notes. If we then move on to the middle line of Keynote, Pages and Numbers, these are all fantastic when used with managed Apple IDs for collaboration, as well as the iFiles app for storing work. You've then got the iCloud features with that 200 gig of iCloud storage space for each managed Apple ID, and also the ability to use the backup option. This can all be deployed and classes set up using the Schoolwork app, which is on the middle line to the end. This is where teachers can hand out and set assignments using Apple's very own Schoolwork app. The bottom line then looks at the creative apps, iMovie, Clips, GarageBand, Swift Playgrounds, and then finishing up with the very own classroom tool, Apple Classroom. And Apple has a great resource here to help teachers in getting up to speed with those Apple apps. Check out the Apple Teacher Learning Center for more information on how to use the apps and go through lots of scenarios and lesson integration plans, and also to be part of the Apple Teacher community. So as well as those fantastic apps from Apple that come out of the box for both your iPad and your Mac, we also need to look at the classroom workflows and what apps you would use for that as well. So one of my favourites, Shobi, all about teaching and learning. It combines the essential tools for assignments, feedback, communication, all into a really easy to use app. And it's one of our apps that integrates great with Jamf. It's on our solutions marketplace. Go and check them out. There's loads more integrations and solution partners that work with Jamf to make the IT and teachers' lives a lot easier as well. But some schools may also use the Schoolwork app by Apple, or you may be using Microsoft Teams, or even Google Classroom. All of these work on iPad and can be used on a browser on a Mac as well. So students can sign in, they can use those, whether you've got a cart of Macs and you want to get them out, or you're going to send them home, you want to get a bunch of iPads out and spread them out across the class, you can sign in and use these apps. But then in terms of classroom management and the tools that you would give to a teacher, the Jamf Teacher app, and we'll come onto that a bit later on, the Jamf Teacher app allows teachers to manage what those devices are going to be doing in their classroom. So you can lock students into multiple apps. You can actually set time-based lessons so content only appears during that particular time. And it also works anywhere. So you can be having children at home, some might be split, there might be a child who can't get in for any reason. And if they've got a device at home, they can also access the lesson and have the same restrictions that a teacher would apply in the class. Now, a companion app to Jamf Teacher is Apple's Classroom app. That allows you to view a screen of a child's device. But if we then start looking at what you can do with a managed Apple ID and the new updates to the Apple Classroom app, those features are now able to happen across the internet. So whereas before it was done on Bluetooth, it was in the vicinity of the school within the classroom, those features now extend out. So we'll come onto that a bit later on as well. Really for schools, it's about making it a lot easier for the IT admin, not having loads and loads of apps to update, not having to spend a load of money on apps. And where I've found success and where I've spoken to a number of schools and the direction they're moving in is non-subject specific apps. The ability to be able to use the app for content creation, rather than just using something to look up this, look up that, downloading an app for the Romans, having the ability to allow students to create. It makes it a lot easier when you're rolling out training because it's less apps to learn. It makes it more creative because the students actually have to understand what they're being taught and then create their own ways in which they want to express themselves or how they've understood the topic. So non-subject specific apps, get a core set that is just useful to you. Now this can be whatever you want them to be. So you don't have to go with Pages, for example. You might want to use Microsoft Word. You might want to use some of the Google apps. All these can be signed onto a device, whether it be an iPad or a Mac, and you can use these to teach any subject of any age group. What we want to get to is the fact that you've got a student who is not having to focus on the technology or how an app works. Yes, there will be a period of that when they first start, but then it just becomes about a tool for learning. Oh, I'm going to grab this MacBook out of the car, I'm going to grab this iPad out of the trolley, and I'm going to use Explain Everything because that's what I feel I need to use to explain this maths problem. Another child may want to use a piece of paper and have a different way of expressing how they're going to show the math problem. But it's entirely up to them, and with a core set of apps that are non-subject specific, they can do that. It might want to be an iMovie that they want to explain something. So come up with your core set of apps. I've worked in many schools where they've had a big 7 that's just the core apps that they go to. Yes, there's times when you want to add some more, but having that core set of non-subject specific apps is really, really useful for staff training, students being able to sort of adapt quickly and understand what's being taught of them. It's about the teaching and learning rather than the technology, but also for IT in terms of deploying the apps, less cost, and also less number of updates to run as well. So with all these apps at the fingertips, students have to take their learning to the next level, and they've got powerful content, information at their every demand, but they need guidance and help, and they need to remove distractions to focus on learning. And nothing's more important than when you've got a cart or a selection of iPads and you're getting them out for a period of time because you're sharing them. So the role of the teacher is becoming more of a facilitator as the students become more confident in their tools and express their own learning through their choice of apps and mediums. So that what we just discussed with those core apps that they're going to choose. But how do we empower IT teachers and then take it one step further and empower parents as well to guide students in the right direction? So one of the things that you can actually do is to set up what's called a shared iPad model. Now, shared iPad can be used not only in education, but also in business, but multiple users can use the iPad and the user experiences can be personal, even though those devices are shared. For example, in the classroom, transitions from class to class are greatly simplified. It's easier to pick up right where the students left off, and their work is automatically saved. When used with the Classroom app, it also has intelligent caching that helps accelerate student sign-in and returning students to an iPad they previously used. So it's available in the iPad Pro, iPad 5th gen or later, iPad Air 2 or later, iPad Mini 4th gen or later. So it's there if you've got old equipment, and that covers quite a lot of equipment that would probably be used in schools for over a number of years. You can then go and set up what's called a shared iPad. It does require a mobile device management solution, so Jamf. Users with a managed Apple ID can sign into shared iPad. So going back to that, putting Apple School Manager at the heart of your deployment, going with managed Apple IDs gives you so much more because you can offer that personalized one-to-one environment with a cart of iPads, or also how you want to sort of move forward in terms of perhaps growing into a one-to-one model when you're ready. But this is the great way to explore what can be done as a personal device on a shared number of devices. And devices must have at least 32 gigabytes of storage in order to be sort of used in the shared iPad mode, and they must be supervised. So in terms of Apple Classroom, we spoke about that a little bit earlier. Classroom is a powerful app for iPad and Mac that allows you to guide the learning, share work, and manage student devices. It supports both shared and one-to-one environments. So if you're looking at a cart of iPads, as we are here, and then moving into one-to-one, if you want to explore that further up your year groups, or you want to test a one-to-one in a class, then Apple Classroom has got you covered. You can launch specific apps, you can launch specific websites, textbooks even on a page as well. So if you're using books and then you want to sort of deploy that book out to a student, you can actually direct them to a specific page that you want them to go to. You can share documents between teachers and students, or you can share student work on a TV, monitor or projector if you've got Apple TVs as well. So if you've got a cart of iPads and then you've got an Apple TV, you can connect that to your interactive whiteboard, or if you want to start exploring what the possibilities are, you could use an iPad, explain everything, and an Apple TV. Replace the interactive whiteboard with a TV screen, a large 85-inch or 55-inch depending on the size, and you've got a very comprehensive interactive whiteboard that can be used anywhere in the room. It means that you can also have explain everything, collaborate on those student iPads, so every single child's got an interactive whiteboard in their hands, plus so much more of what you can do with an iPad. So it's worth checking out what you can do with Apple TV, how you can manage them in Jamf, and also the ability that that brings when you start adding digital signage into that as well. So check out the Trilbytv and what we've got on offer there with digital signage, and what you can do with an Apple TV connected to either an interactive whiteboard or a TV screen. You can see which apps students are working on. You can mute students' devices, and you can assign a specific shared iPad for each student. So you can do that as a teacher. You can press the button on your Apple Classroom app, and it assigns each child or a number of children the shared iPad device as well. And you can also reset a student's password. So their managed Apple ID, if they've forgotten what their password is, you can actually reset that as a teacher. You don't need to go back to IT to say, can you reset this for me? You've got the power to do that, because this speeds up the learning process. You don't want the technology to be a barrier. So this puts the power back in your hands so that you can actually get on with the teaching and learning. The students aren't distracted. You can just reset the password and off they go. So let's move on to then how Jamf Teacher can actually bring value to your deployment as well. So with Jamf School, where Apple devices will be configured, from Wi-Fi to apps, it saves time for IT and allows you to give the Apple experience you expect. So there's an app specifically for teachers, which is available as an iOS application, a Mac app, or through a web browser, and it's called Jamf Teacher. It takes some of that iPad management ability the IT team uses in Jamf School, and it provides it to teachers in their very own app. The teacher is able to effectively manage an iPad class themselves in real time with workflows that allow you to strip away the technology and focus on the teaching without needing to bug IT or log a ticket. Now, this is a companion to the Apple Classroom app. So you can actually control a student's device if they're using a Mac as well, or if they're using an iPad. So you could have a mix in the class. You might have a trolley of MacBooks and a trolley of iPads. You can actually manage both of those at the same time. So you really get some empowering teachers with that simple management by using Jamf Teacher. You can use App Lock, as I said, to lock students into multiple apps. Now, this is fantastic when you've got that core set and you do want students to start exploring. What you want them to do is be able to say, okay, we're going to focus on Explain Everything. But those students might not be suited to using Explain Everything. They might want to go and use something else. So you can say, right, you can use Explain Everything, iMovie, and Keynote. And those are the 3 apps you're going to use for this lesson. With Apple Classroom, you lock into a single app, but with the Jamf Teacher app, you can lock into multiple. And you can set that for a time period as well. You can create and manage classes, so you can have those preset, or you can actually do those on the fly. You can create and manage lessons. So if you've got a regular lesson that appears at the same time each week, because that's when you've booked out your trolley, you can actually say, right, during this period of time on a Wednesday, all of these apps are going to be removed except for these ones. And you can set that to be your lesson. It might be that you're going to do a coding session and you want to have the Sphero app or the Swift Playgrounds app. You can say at this particular time, once those iPads come out and I press go on this lesson, it's going to all disappear. And you can invite students to a remote class as well. So further on down the line, if you start saying that we want to distribute some of these shared iPads or these devices in a trolley to a student who can't get into school, you could then actually start a remote class so they can be anywhere in the world as long as they're connected to the internet, and you can actually start a remote class for them. All those apps would disappear and they could focus on the lesson as well. You can also request apps for students as well. So this is one of the times when you go to IT and you say, I would like this app on these devices, and they might say, okay, let me know why you want this or which app is it, and you've got to try and write it down, and there's 3 or 4 different versions on the App Store. What you can do with the Jamf Teacher app is browse the App Store on the iPad or on the Mac, and then you can share to Jamf Teacher, which then automatically alerts the IT admin in Jamf School to be able to say, this is the app that I would like, here's a link to it, deploy it out, and you can request it for your students as well. And then also you can manage that student device by locking in individuals as well, or you can lock in as a group. So various different restrictions that you can have. So if we start to think about if we want to grow what this to a one-to-one from a sort of a shared trolley cart of iPads or Macs, Jamf offers a fantastic solution for parents as well. So if a device is going home, a parent is a very important group of people that you need to make sure are well informed about what's going to be done on that device, what restrictions are going to be in place. So we've created an app called Jamf Parent, which is available as both an app on iOS and Android platforms as well. It can also be accessed through a web browser and even on an Apple Watch. So if you're thinking about, I want to deploy iPads to my students, you had a cart of iPads, we want to go one-to-one in a class or further up in our year groups, but how do we engage the parents? How do we get parents involved in this as well? It might even be that there's a parental contribution to this model that you want to go down. Now, by having an Android app as well, it means that parents who don't have an iPhone are able to actually manage and use their child's device from their device at home, regardless of whether it's an Apple device or not. So as I said, it's available on Android, iOS, it's also available on the web, and also available on Apple Watch as well. And what a parent can do with the Jamf Parent app is it resides on the parent's device, they can sign in and it links up to the student as well in Jamf School. But they can manage restrictions on browsers and on apps. You can also manage the social media or the genres from those apps on the App Store. And you can also limit messaging as well. So as a parent, I can actually say to my daughter's iPad, for this period of time, you've got schoolwork to do. It's set on Shobi. You might need to use Explain Everything and you might want to use Keynote. I'm going to remove all of those other apps that are a distraction. And this is the period of time it's going to be removed from. So they can focus on the homework on that device. Now, that's the same sort of capability that you've got as a teacher using Jamf Teacher, but you're now offering this to parents as well. So parents can be empowered and they can help their children focus on the learning. You can even set location notifications as well. And you can also restrict motion, day and time of when the device is going to be used. Now, there's no conflict on this. You can't have a parent suddenly saying, right, the camera's off and you're halfway through a lesson and you need the camera to be used. You actually set the date and time in which the parents can actually manage their child's device. So at a certain time, the parent app will work. So there's no conflict there. So in terms of additional resources, this is just the start of your journey. And this webinar here is to spark a thought process, give teachers, leaders, IT insight into possibilities of what you can do with your cart of Apple devices. So one thing that I really want you to go away and take a look at is we've spoken a lot about the Jamf Teacher app. We've created Jamf Educator. Now that's a fantastic platform for you to explore how the Jamf Teacher app works in a simulation-based environment. So it's web-based. You don't even need to have the app installed on your device. You sign up to the Jamf Educator program and you go through a number of scenarios. So you learn about the app, you can see it in action, and then you try and apply it. And there's a great number of tracks. There's one for an educator, there's one for an EdTech coordinator. So if you want to go and explore this yourself, you can go through the number of scenarios, learn, try and apply. And then if you want to roll it out to your school and make it widespread, there's some great resources in there in the EdTech track to support professional development, rolling out staff meetings, rolling out the app and talking about it during inset days. So, and there's a badge that you can get at the end of it. We've spoken a little bit about the Apple Teacher Learning Center. This is a fantastic resource. If you haven't done your Apple Teacher badge already, go and check it out. The badge is just the first part of the actual journey. Where this is so fantastic is that it's got lesson integrations. It's part of a community of people that are taking this all over the world. There's support for remote learning. There's Apple EDU chats that happen on Twitter. There's Apple Teachers in Action where it's interviewing people and you're getting their feedback. But it's always changing. There's always ideas. I'm constantly in and out of the Apple Teacher Learning Center learning myself. There's fantastic resources. It's really the go-to place, not only for yourself as your own professional development, but again, this is free, the same as Jamf Teacher and using that in Jamf Educator. This is free. It doesn't cost you anything. You can go and sign up. You can use this in your lesson planning. You can use this for your staff meeting, but this is the core of building out the foundational skills and helping teachers understand the use of technology. Some things for IT as well. So there's the Education Deployment Guide. Now, you may be listening in as like the EdTech coordinator. You may have a small grasp of what you need to do in IT. You may be working with a third party. Download this guide because it's absolutely vital in terms of what can be done in deploying Apple technologies into schools. So this guide is intended for technology managers and technological administrators, but it takes you through the steps of deploying Apple devices successfully in your learning environment, both for a one-to-one and those shared device deployments. So if you've just had your iPads or your Macs in a cart, nothing really sort of, they just grab them out, there's a passcode on them, there's loads of apps in here and there. Take a look at this guide and see if you can take a chance to sort of reset, think about how those devices are set up so you can get more from them. Going a bit more technical, there's another document here which is great, and it's Apple on enterprise networks. Now this does talk about school networks as well. It's intended for enterprise and education network administrators and dives into the required access to the internet hosts for a variety of Apple services. So things like Apple push notifications, where you want to push out apps and books, any updates to devices, the device setup, device management, Apple School Manager and software updates and more. There's some tweaks that you might need to do on your network. Not always, but sometimes you do. So definitely check out this guide. If someone's managing this for you, it might want to be passed on to them as well. So just rounding up, it's easy to make a purchase. Lots of schools have got devices in their carts. They've been used for various different parts of the day. They might have had them for a number of years, or they might have been in the cupboard and no one's put them on charge. But it's not easy to make the right purchase. Making sure you prepare your stakeholders for change and invite them to explore and take them on a journey together is paramount to success of technology deployment. Just take risks, take ownership, test and verify and make your own decisions. I've spoken about some of the apps that are available, but those apps might not be used in your environment and you might want to take a different approach. But it's making sure that you make your own decisions on what's right for your staff and your students. Nothing will ever fit perfectly, but the journey you take and the difference you make will have a huge impact on how those devices are used. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and check out our other sessions that are happening not only throughout today, but if you want to go back and revise some of them. Thank you for joining us in this back to school event and this cart to a la carte session.
So today we are in Selkirk High School in the Scottish Borders. It's one of our secondary schools as part of the Inspire Learning programme, and we're going to hear and get a chance to speak to Mr. Jamie Bryson, who's the head teacher here, and also Nicola Douglas, who is our Inspire strategic lead based in the school, and also hopefully a number of the young people as well, to talk about the impact of managed learning environment with technology on in a secondary school environment. So without any further ado, thank you so much, Jamie, for agreeing to chat to us. Can you give us a little bit of a background into Selkirk as a place and the school and what makes this particular school unique?
Of course. Selkirk High School is a partnership of parents, students, teachers and partners in the Royal Borough of Selkirk in the beautiful border country of Scotland. There are 427 students at the school, and they come from a wide range of backgrounds, some of them extremely rural. And we're very proud of our ethos here, which underpins everything we do. And in addition to that emphasis on values, which make us most proud here, we focus very energetically on the bread and butter of any school, the qualifications and subjects our students do. We hope to light fires of enthusiasm in those areas, and we also focus very much on the skills, the golden skills we call them, to ensure that they are ready when they get through those doors, that the qualifications open for them, that they're successful whatever they do and wherever they go.
So into that context, I guess, the Inspire Learning programme came. Selkirk would be our first school that we launched the one-to-one programme in back in September of 2019. So it's fairly well embedded now in the school. And how can you give us maybe a couple of examples of what that looks like, or how it's changed the environment of the school or the teaching and learning in the school?
We never meant it to be transformative. We never used that language. We wanted it to enhance and add value to what we were already doing. I think it's fair to say, though, that it has been transformative. I think we've gone from a rather traditional learning offer to one that is very often characterised by a great deal of innovation. And every single teacher, from the word go, and I'm very proud of this, has been hugely on board with it. I think at the heart of our success with implementing this wonderful technology is that we did have that very clear message to staff. We didn't want anyone to be at sea. We didn't want anyone to feel the pressure to use this all the time. We wanted to protect all those things that made us so proud and that were so valuable at Selkirk beforehand. Having said that, we did realise we needed to develop consistency in key pedagogical areas, and our current focus is on feedback. And if I were to say what's really made a difference, I think it's in the variety and impact of the feedback we are able to share with students, and students to share with teachers. And we use a wide variety of apps to enable that to happen. It surprised me that that engagement was very quickly enhanced and fostered by the introduction of iPad technology. We had young people who felt they were rubbish at art because they couldn't draw like a photograph, but with technology realised they could in fact produce something really creative and really quite effective and visually satisfying. Similarly, in languages, we've had a large uptake where formerly it was less so, because of the way that teacher has enhanced what she is able to do through technology, really making the subject accessible to those who didn't feel so confident in that very academic context. A couple of examples only, but although we've had it for a couple of years, much of that time has been locked down. And if I were to ask our students, I think, how useful technology has been, they would talk about how that experience was made at times rich because of iPad technology, despite all the struggles and challenges, and we're not complacent about anything. We, I think, limited very significantly the impact of the pandemic lockdowns through the use of live learning and technology.
It's fascinating to hear you talking about innovation, because it's one of the things that I'll quite often say is that there's nothing innovative about giving kids devices or handing out iPads, but it's all about the innovation that you enable as a result of that. And some of what you've described there is exactly that. It's about the innovation that you can now see in the classroom. And the second thing I thought was really interesting about what you picked up on there was that idea of consistency and being able to do something consistent because you've got a technology environment which is equitable, and in other words, everybody has access, but also is delivered in a way which gives everybody the same tools potentially to, and for you as a school leader to be able to focus on something like feedback from a very consistent way.
Yeah, I think that's really at the heart of it. Our staff have a very clear understanding and a co-authored approach to professional development, and we ring fence quite a lot of time to ensure our staff can engage in professional dialogue, reflect and evaluate on their progress with this specific pedagogical focus of feedback and metacognition as well. And we enhance that with all sorts of opportunities locally delivered by Inspire Learning and within the school as well. So that sharing of practice, that momentum is continually there. And we've gone way past the time when it was a gimmicky, a novelty, and it's really enriching learning.
And lastly, and we could probably talk all day about this kind of stuff, but where do you see the future then? Where do you see kind of like this going, and what are you kind of looking forward to in terms of the way this programme goes on in Selkirk?
Well, I mentioned those three areas of endeavour we have as a school: qualification, skills, and values. And one of the things we're really looking at is metacognition in addition to feedback. Young people understanding themselves as learners, recording that progress, leading their own learning. And I would like to see the teacher fading away a little from the classroom environment as young people take over their learning in a way that really suits them. We are developing our curriculum at pace as far as we can to ensure that it's meaningful for all our learners. And they're telling us that technology, digital creativity, those areas are really interesting to them. And hearing that voice, changing what we do as a school on the back of that is our ambition, and recording that progress so they have that confidence, which is often the only barrier between them and their unique and pretty magnificent potential.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think certainly working with, as part of the Inspire team, the school here is one of the schools that we're really delighted to be able to be supporting and kind of helping and also kind of celebrating some of that success and some of that journey with. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Nicola. I'm an Inspire lead here at Selkirk High School, and today just going to take a few minutes to talk to you about the difference that having managed devices has made to our learners and our staff at the school. So normally I could talk for hours about the impact that digital technology has had on the school. So restricting myself today to just a few minutes to talk you through sort of some of the highlights and sort of thoughts about it. But if you've any questions or want to find out more about how we've introduced digital into our classrooms, then just get in touch with the school. We'd be delighted to talk to you for absolutely ages about what's going on. So having managed devices rather than a sort of bring your own setup means that we know exactly what is on every device that's in our classroom. We know what apps are available, what has already been preloaded onto the iPad, and what is available through our self-service. We know that we can go on and sort of check on downloads and sort of deal with passwords, and we know the sort of security of everything's there, that everything's been checked, so we can sort of use what's on the device with confidence. And the fact that everyone's got exactly the same means that we can plan our activities and our lessons without worrying about who's got access to what. We've got some sort of quite what look on the face of it sort of quite simple activities, but they've made a huge difference to our learners. So we make really good use of some of the preloaded apps that are there, so camera and video. Got some examples here from science, using markups. This is a first year class learning bits of equipment, taking a picture, making a note of what they're all called, and then saving that in their files so they can refer back to it if they come across something on a work card. And then we use that continually through different activities all the way up the school. So my National 5 lesson today, we were taking pictures of the results of our practical, and then we can refer back to that in the future. We know that pupils outside school are sort of creating and sharing a lot of video content. They're also going looking for other people's, and we're not always sure that that's done in a safe way. But using our devices, we can sort of utilise that creativity and that sort of want to make content in a way that suits lessons. So another example here from science, where we're challenging our pupils to share their knowledge about a cell, and this group decided to do a sort of YouTube style make your own cell using sort of pieces of equipment that you'd find in your house. The other thing about sort of their creativity and content is we find that learners can be quite timid about sort of altering a picture just in case they make a mistake and sort of wreck it. By using the device to sort of decide where to put the next bit, they can trial and error. It means they're a bit more confident about what they're producing. We've also used the camera quite a lot for feedback. So we've got an example here from PE, where sort of peer feedback, sort of recording each other doing different activities and then talking through what they can improve. But teachers have also been really good about giving audio feedback and making videos and putting together sort of interactive feedback, like you can see here from an English example. Last couple of things, I'd like to highlight a tool, because we have iPads. We have an app called Apple Classroom, which is sort of thought of as being a way to sort of control the pupils, see what's on their screens, lock them into apps, lock their iPads in general. We've been using this quite successfully to as a sort of interactive tool to watch what's on their screens, but in a positive way, so we can give them sort of live feedback and sort of praise, etc., of what's on them. And then the last thing is just to sort of highlight that, of course, it's not just our sort of traditional classrooms that have been affected by this. We've got a rural department, and the device has been absolutely successful out there. And of course at home, we've spent sort of chunks of time at home in the last couple of years, whether through school closures or pupils who have had to stay at home because of illness, etc. And because we know what devices they've got, because we know exactly what they've got access to, and everything's controlled and managed and safe, it means that we can still involve them in lessons. We've had a very successful school closure. We've had great success with sort of dialing learners into our classrooms, etc. And just making sure that we're making the most of the digital technology. So hopefully I haven't spoke for too long, and we're just about to pass on to our modern language teacher, who'll give you a little bit more specifics about what this looks like in her classroom, and then you'll get to hear from some of our learners.
Well, far from being the distraction that I expected, the iPads have actually become essential to my teaching, often providing focus for my students and also a variety in the ways that I can drill vocabulary. I think this has made the subject a little bit more engaging and perhaps less intimidating for the students, and that is borne out by the fact that we have a greater uptake in both French and Spanish in our students for S3. The iPads really do enhance our ability to communicate both orally and in a written way. Very simply, we use the voice memo app in order to create where students insert their answers into pre-prepared voice tracks, and that allows them to produce high quality role plays and dialogues. For written communication, we've been using the spell check, so changing the keyboards on the iPads into French or Spanish, and this allows students to incorporate things like accents and other language features more easily, and this increases their confidence in this skill, which they often find challenging. The most recent thing I've been playing around with has been the microphone, the use of the microphone app on the keyboards, where students have been trying to recreate or practice and refine their pronunciation as much as possible to get it as close to the original version as the written form.
Great, so the most exciting part is to talk to the young people, because a lot of what we're doing is really to make the best possible learning environment for you guys, right? Because Inspire Learning, our job is to try and make the Scottish Borders, where you are, the best place in the world to teach and learn. That's nearly at the end of your school?
Yeah, I'm in S5 at the moment.
S5.
Yeah. But for me, I think the iPads have really helped in studying from home, because it gives us access to all the materials through OneNote, and by submitting your work through OneNote, the teachers can also give like instant feedback, which you can replay as many times as you like, so you can continually get your feedback.
Yeah. Also having feedback in different forms, so we can have like an audio feedback rather than just written. So hearing it rather than just.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So why? How does that help? Because I think it does help. How does it help?
It kind of remember it a bit more, having it like
spoken.
Or I find I remember it more. I want to go back and listen to it more. I can listen to it many times, and it doesn't feel, I'm just reading it, I'm forgetting it.
Yeah.
It helps it really.
Do you guys all recognise that? Would you say the same?
Yeah. It especially comes when you have say modern languages and you have a French word you need to pronounce. The teacher can at least send an audio to help you pronounce it right. So
yeah.
not
So you're actually able to hear it rather than. Okay, so that's important, obviously, and it's a great example of modern languages. How about the fact that, obviously feedback like that you get instantly, which I think is what maybe you were speaking. As soon as your teachers marked it, you get that audio feedback instantly.
So yeah, because it is, you can just upload to OneNote anytime as you wish. You don't need to be face to face with the teacher for them to do that. So it just gives them a way of just instantly giving it
from school. How do you think the technology prepares you better for that? Or does it?
It does, because technology is very much at the heart of everything we're doing nowadays. It's very, modern. Everything basically relies on technology, and in a post-COVID world, things aren't going to be as face-to-face. So unis, stuff like that are mostly going to be done online. So having this kind of understanding of how iPads run, how stuff like Teams runs, is going to really help us as we go into uni and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think also the iPads give us a sense of responsibility. We need to look after them and keep them safe. And also, by having the iPads, titles like digital leaders also come out of them, which gives other responsibilities.
Thrive in a digital world, right? So not just to live in it, but actually to succeed and to excel in whatever you do by giving you and helping with you with some of those skills.
Yeah, it's definitely helped with like problem solving to try and work out how the iPads work, or like programming and things like that.
It could also help with like coding on the iPads. It could also help with like future jobs, possibly.
The iPads and stuff, because it helps you like learn, and like rather than always having it on just like on a sheet or something where that could like, get lost, but on the iPad and stuff it's always there.
Yeah.
And I think that's like been really helpful.
Yeah, and that's really powerful. It's actually that all the time, anytime access that you have to your learning, your resources, whatever it is. It's a really good point. So it's an A from you for us in terms of what we're doing. How about the rest of you?
It's also helped with like tracking your learning, so you can take a picture and then save it and like write what you did, so you can track your learning and track what you're doing. So,
and that's important for you personally as well as to share with your teachers, but it's actually nice to be able to look back sometimes and go, look at the progress I've made. Yeah.
It's definitely good because like if you get like a test score, you can like screenshot it and like save it for like, I don't know, like another year and go, oh yeah, I did that.
Yeah. So you've got that's like a portfolio of your achievement.
Before I got this app at the top of my page, I struggled to read because of my dyslexia, but now that I've got this app, it helps me in many ways.
Hello, I'm Eden.
And I'm Braden, and we are both students at Selkirk High School.
Over the next few minutes, you'll see how the iPads have improved our learning experience. The iPads are a huge advantage to us. From the moment we wake up in the morning to when we arrive back home, they are in our hands. But for many students at Selkirk High School, like us who live very rural, have a long journey into school.
Before the iPads, the commute into school was just journey time, but now the iPads allow us to use this time constructively.
The iPads give us the opportunity to increase our learning through completing homework, revising what we've learnt, or reading books.
Meaning that when we arrive at school, we are just that little bit more prepared to continue our learning journey.
The iPads allow us to record results, share notes, and demonstrate our learning.
Our learning has become so much more collaborative. We are learning as individuals, and we are learning as groups.
But best of all, the iPad technology has allowed teachers to bring all our learning together in the classroom in new and innovative ways.
The iPads at Selkirk High School are allowing the students to put their values into action.
But the real value in these iPads is allowing us to bring our learning back home.
Because now the iPads allow us to follow our passions. The iPad has helped me develop my drumming and recording skills.
And for me, having the iPads at home has meant I can share my progress towards a potential engineering scholarship. Here,
I've used the iPad to record a 48-hour time-lapse of a 3D printed rear wheel. And this is the robotic lawnmower I've built for the scholarship. All in all, the iPads are enhancing our learning and enabling us to think creatively and learn independently.
Good afternoon. I'm Neil Emery from Trilbytv. First of all, I need to say a big thank you to our friends at Jamf for this presentation slot this afternoon. It's great to be part of their back to school event, and well done for all the success of the event, guys. So a little bit about our story first, because I think that's important to tell you where we've come from. We have a large Apple background. So we were education trainers for 12 years, originally showing schools and their suites of iMacs, that it wasn't just about Photoshop. It was actually about the cool iLife tools on there, like iMovie and GarageBand. And then this came along and things got really busy. So this consumer-based device Apple brought out overnight went crazy in education. And back then we were working with Apple and its reseller partners. And if you were a school or college back then, if you bought some iPads, there was the offer of training to understand what was possible with those iPads in teaching and learning. And we were one of the busiest companies out there. So we were probably working with about 500 education establishments every year. And that meant we were traveling up and down the country. And when we got to the schools that we were working with, we used to see this a lot. So probably in about 90% of the schools that we're working in, we would see this traditional digital signage screen that was either turned off or it was playing content that we felt had little impact. And that was a bit crazy for us because we were there to do very creative processes on the iPad. So, you know, making movies and slideshows. And we wanted a nice mechanism to share that content. And we looked at those screens and thought, this is the ideal mechanism. But when we asked the schools we were working at, there was usually a few things happening with that screen and reception. So there's my slide, sorry, of the content that we wanted to share. So what was happening was there was either a USB stick that had been long forgotten and was still showing pictures from 6 years ago. There was a laptop running a PowerPoint that people had given up updating. And to be honest, that laptop could have been better utilized in the classroom. Or there was some overcomplicated solution that was meant for the commercial space that, again, was too hard for people to use, or IT didn't have time to manage that solution, or the people who were supposed to be managing that solution. So again, screens turned off. And we saw that in so many places that we went that we thought we need to be brave here. So we gave up everything we were doing in the Apple space, and with Google as well, we just written Google's transformational planning workshop to focus on digital signage and Trilbytv, with the aim being to become the #1 digital signage solution made for education. Few things we focused on when we started to develop Trilbytv: make it simple. We'd learned from those early apps like Showbie and Explain Everything and Class Dojo and iMovie that actually, if you make it simple, then staff at schools and colleges will have a success and they'll feel more likely to actually continue to use the platform. So Trilbytv is absolutely simple to use. It works across all platforms. So we're with Jamf today in the Apple space. So we have a player for the Apple TV, but we also have players across all platforms. So we didn't want to charge our customers for expensive boxes. So they will use anything from a Fire Stick to a Chromebox to an Apple TV. It doesn't matter. Actually, if you sign up for our trial, you've probably got something already that you can have a go with us. Unlimited screen subscription. So historically, schools have been forced to pay a per screen subscription, which means when they add more screens, then they're paying more money. We wanted our schools to see how important signage can be to grow that estate. So we don't limit them by adding a screen. We give them an unlimited screen license. And make it exciting. Signage in the past for us had failed. It was usually commercial products that were ticker tape, logos, clocks, and zones. For us, it's all about working with partners as well. So we have content catalog within the solution where we work with those such as WWF and Britannica to provide education content that can also keep screens up to date and exciting. And we continue to work with partners to create that content. But it's not just about digital signage here. Again, we felt that signage had kind of lacked impact. So we work really hard with our customers, and it's all about building whole school communication, boosting community cohesion, and enhancing parental engagement. It's absolutely about having a plan. The school I was working with yesterday, Pleckgate High School, it was absolutely looking at where the screens were. So reception, staff room, student areas. Think about the viewers in those areas, and then the content will be derived from those answers that you come up with. So it's absolutely about having a plan. And we learned that from our days working with Apple and doing the vision and plan course, that actually, unless you have a plan in place, you've got less chance of having a success. It's also with that plan about having guidelines and expectations and making sure that's shared with all the staff. So in the reception, there's standard content there that we should be showing. That's your partnership logos, that's your certifications, that's your parent quotes. You might have some alumni slides, whereas your staff room will be very different. That's about sharing best practice. That's about lightweight CPD. So you might have, a Twitter feed from a well-known educationist, keeping staff up to date as they grab a coffee. And of course, the communal areas is all about the students. So it's all about making sure we're sharing and showcasing their work, as well as providing them with the information that they need on a daily basis. And it's also about making sure your brand is consistent and core values are represented and promoted. Schools are businesses, especially those multi-academy trusts, and it's about making sure that that message is consistent. If you look at digital signage in the real world, it has real impact because that content is full screen and beautiful. And our schools should be no different. Their content should be absolutely full screen and beautiful. And again, that's what we help our schools achieve. So that's a bit about us and where we came from, because I think it's always important to understand the journey. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a demo of Trilbytv. There's a trial that you can sign up for as well, which I'll share the link at the end. It's very easy to have a go with us. So I will switch out of this view here and switch across to Safari. So hopefully you're all seeing Safari. www.trilbytv.co.uk. Nice website, lots of case studies. We usually case study once a week. Lots of our customers also, we do something video-wise called Under the Hat. And that's our customers not just talking about our product, but also talking about the importance of sharing and showcasing. So check that out because it's well worth a look. I'm going to log in very much straight into Trilbytv here. So a lot of people, when they see Trilbytv, they get the iPad connection that we've had as a company because it looks very easy to use, is what a lot of people will say. Depending on who I am in the system, depends on what I can do and what I can see. If I grab this window back a little bit and just get my player up as well. So there's two parts to Trilbytv. You've got your web browser part where I add my content and manage my content. I've also obviously going to have to connect something to the screen, which let's pretend this is an Apple TV but connected into the screen. I've gone to the App Store on my Apple TV. I've downloaded the Trilbytv player app and it gives me a code. Within Trilbytv, I've got a little player dashboard. I can see the players that are already online, and I'm just going to pop this code straight into my Trilbytv. I'll call it Mac Player and where it is. So usually call it what it is and where it is, and I'm going to press add, like so. That player comes online within a minute, so our solution is pretty instant, and what it will do is it will start to play a category called all. So anything that I've uploaded and moderated, which like these 2 bits of content, it will start to play and download within a minute. I can change what the player does. So rather than playing a category called all, I could go in and say, don't play a category called all. Let's be very specific about what this player does, and we'll change it so it plays a category called reception. So if I add new content, I'm going to have to tag that category for then it to play over here. So although this might start to play, it will then stop playing in a minute and say no content to play. So I'm going to upload some content. Again, we learned from those early apps, especially like Shobi, where there was a big plus button, and usually that allowed you to do something very, very quickly. You can upload video up to 4K. Slideshow is a bit of a hybrid, so you can add PowerPoints, you can add PDFs, you can add JPEGs, PNGs, just one place to throw lots of files in. Twitter works really well for digital signage. Remember, signage is about impact. So Twitter works well because our Twitter feeds are full screen and animated, and it's about text, multiple images, GIFs and video. So Twitter is a great mechanism for signage. Web content allows you to upload or add like YouTube URLs, Vimeo embeds, YouTube live stream, Google Slides presentations. And then the bottom one here is a simple way to add a single slide and some text, which is where I will start. So I click on my option. I'm going to add a welcome slide like so. I'm going to press the plus button and I choose my slide. Okay. I press save down at the bottom. Just to let you know, we use Microsoft Azure for all our hosting, so it's all GDPR compliant and kept safely in the UK. That will upload. And then I will need to do a process every time. So everything needs moderation. Of course it does. And it depends who you are in the system, whether you can do that moderation process. So I approve the content. I've got a few other options here. Normally on a demo, I'd explain everything, but with 10 minutes left, I'm going to quickly go past that. You can say this is a single slide, so you can choose how long it plays for. We chose the category reception. So I'm simply going to choose the category reception and press save. And that's it, because I've chosen that category. It will make the link between the content I've just uploaded and the player over here. Okay, so that will just upload very quickly. And then within a minute, it will download this and start playing it on the right-hand side. Remember, again, signage is all about impact and keeping people's interest. We would usually suggest 6 to 8 bits of content on a screen that update on a regular basis. You don't want to throw 80 images at people or a video that lasts 20 minutes. Yeah, you have to think again about your audience and how long they're by those screens. As you can see, it's downloading. So I'll carry on to my next ad. I'll do slideshow. So usually images for our customers. I might say this one, school images. I'm going to use my images from yesterday's demo at Pletgate, and I'm going to choose some school images that I've got here. Let's just move that little bar over, and I'm going to press, choose them again, like so, and choose for upload. Now, lots of files can be different sizes, of course, and if you see, we do this autofill, which if I turn it off, you can see these images were anything from a portrait to a square to a widescreen. So that autofill makes sure that they're full screen and looking beautiful. If you need to adjust, then you can simply use the rule of thirds here and just adjust them down like so. So nice and easy again to add. And again, I simply save like so, and it will save and upload my images for, again, me to moderate the content before I choose the reception category and make them live. I have to be honest, I'm being very brave doing a live demo on my home Wi-Fi, but fingers crossed. Reminds me of the days of Apple training when our teachers who were very nervous used to say, "I told you so," as things didn't quite go to plan. But Wi-Fi has moved on nicely since those days, he says, waiting for it to load. Again, when it does, I'll need to do the approval process and again, make it live and very quickly. And then I'll move on to some Twitter feeds. Again, just to highlight, it's really important to think about what content and where. Again, images like this, perfect for the reception screen and perfect for student areas. You know, it's about those daily and weekly successes that you'll have at school that we need to be showing all the time. And I think historically, we've probably seen stuff in assembly once in a while, but then after that, it gets lost and never shown again. So it's, again, really important to think about where things are and where they're showing. This normally doesn't take too long to upload, but typically a live demo is just hindering me a little bit here. Here we go. I can see a line that's starting to go. Yay! There we go. Good. I do forget that I'm on the same kind of platform as all our hundreds of schools. So anyway, save, reception, and save again. And again, within a minute, it will download those pictures and start playing. And then I will head to Twitter. So the school I was with yesterday, Pleckgate High, I'm going to take their Twitter feed, like so. And great, we should be able to click back now. And as I click back to the home area, I should say that I can see those 2 new bits of content and I can see who uploaded them, etc. I'll click on my Twitter. I'll add the school's username. We can add hashtags via the username. So if it was hashtag sports day, it would only show the tweets that the school is sending out with the hashtag. You can do open hashtags as well. Be very careful because obviously they're open to abuse, but there's some great open hashtags out there for dedicated sort of events or months like Black History Month or Mental Health Week or Safer Internet Day. So lots of our schools will have a list of very useful Twitter names and addresses. Again, I'm going to approve. Again, I'm going to choose the reception. We can color code stuff as well. So if I know that value, which is the Webb color, I'm just doing a little dropper tool here to find that out. I can go in and make sure that the Twitter feed is on brand, like so. And I can color code the main text and the link text as well. And in we go. I'm going to save that. I've tagged it, haven't I? Like so. And that will save, and then I'll give you a look at this. We really love our Twitter feeds because they are full screen and animated. And the nice thing is once you've added them, you don't update us, you simply tweet and it will automatically update your screens, which is a nice mechanism. So if I do a quick view of that, you'll see how our Twitter feeds look for someone like Pleckgate High. Or, there we go. So full screen and animated, you can color code to make sure it's on brand, like so. So I've chosen the latest 3. Obviously the ones without images don't look so nice, but again, the nice thing is it will keep itself up to date as soon as you tweet. There we go. Cool. If I click back, again, I can see the new content I've added. And again, there's, you know, there's loads of Twitter feeds out there. Some of our schools for Science Week will add the NASA Twitter feed, because why wouldn't you want the world's most recognized science organization tweeting right into your science department? Last one to show, a bit of web content. That could be a YouTube URL or something like a Google Slides presentation. So again, we try not to confuse our customers by making them download different apps. We just give them one space to add content. So whether it's a YouTube URL, a Vimeo embed, whatever it is. Oh, that's not what I wanted to add. Sorry, that's not the one. Let's just go back. Sorry, file menu, publish to the web. And I need the embed code, like so. Perfect. We'll pop back and we'll pop that in. The great thing about Google Slides, of course, it's an online presentation. So actually you don't change anything with us. When you want to make a change on that presentation, you would just, so for example, if I wanted to quickly make sure that Friday was Fish and Chips Day, I don't touch Trilbytv, I just make the changes on the Google Slides presentation and it would update automatically, like so. I have some staff in receptions and dinner halls who don't even know we exist because they're simply updating one Google Slides presentation that they've been given ownership of. So you can see all of that content going live. You can see how easy it is for me to add that content, even with the limitations of home Wi-Fi sometimes. There is a lot more with Trilbytv. We also have, as I said, our content catalog, which is content that we create with partners. So we've recently, for example, done some great content with WWF. That's the one I'll show you for this end of the demo. They gave us some wonderful photography, and they focused with us on areas such as polar regions, British wildlife, the oceans. So bringing some of that real world inside the school. So it was very focused content for education. If you like that and you think that would be great for our screens, you can download that straight to your Trilbytv, as I'm doing now, for you then choose again where you want that content to play. So again, it will download. Again, I will approve. And again, I will click where I want it to go, which is on the reception screen. Now, a couple of reasons for our content catalog. A, to help you keep your screens up to date and interesting, but also to encourage you to do more. And there's a lot in there. Like I said, we've done stuff with Britannica. We've got a lovely word of the day with Vocabulary Ninja, where it just updates itself every day. We've got some lovely widgets for happy birthdays, where you can add a CSV and it will update staff and students with a nice animation for their birthdays. Black History Month. Obviously, we did some COVID-related content, and we're adding to that all the time. So the most recent one we did was some coding slides with the very cool Rodo Codo, which are more primary based, but they're really nice slides as well. So a lot's going on. And in a nutshell, guys, well, there's lots more, of course there is, but I only had 20 minutes this afternoon to give a bit of an explanation of who we are and a bit of a demo of the platform, which has done well. So well done, Trilbytv, for demoing live on this session today. I will click back to my presentation, if that will allow me to. Yeah. And I will take, if there is anybody out there today, any questions, I'll click off the sharing and go back into the mechanism we're using today. But if anyone's interested in Trilbytv, it's trilbytv.co.uk/trial. There's a 30-day trial, and we'll be in touch to make sure you're well supported. You can email me at neil@trilbytv.co.uk. And again, the website, trilbytv.co.uk. Go and have a look at who we are. I would say now we're getting to a point, 6 years of working hard on this business, where we're being recognized as a go-to solution, which is great. And we have some of the bigger multi-academy trusts on side and using Trilbytv, such as ARC Schools, as TCATs. We have Star Academies. We've just pulled on our first Oasis Academy schools as well. So it's a really nice platform. So I would ask, I would say to you guys, go and have a look at it and check us out. And I will stop sharing and see. We don't have any questions yet. We can wait a few seconds. Oh, I've ruined that now, haven't I? Well, that's okay. I mean, again, if anybody's, wants to know more about Trilbytv, then it's trilbytv.co.uk. And more than happy for you to get in touch, and we'll give you some support, some information, whatever you guys need from us. So thank you very much for your time, guys. I hope that was useful. If there was anyone out there listening, brilliant. And again, thank you to Jamf for giving us the opportunity for presenting today. Have a good day, all. Thank you. Bye.
All right, look at that. We are here early for the Asking the Right Questions, Unleashing Student Inquiry session. And I have a fun little pre-session game for everybody. If folks are in here, it's visual puns. And I'll give you a sense of what we're doing here if you haven't played this game before. Sadly, we have to do this individually, but you could shout it out in the comments when you recognize what you think this means. So if there's anybody out there, here's our sample one. You look at this image. What do you think it represents? What word or phrase, catchphrase, slogan might this represent? All right, so these are So it's a colon and an end parentheses. When put together, that's what we call an emoji. This emoji represents happiness of some kind, or joy, or smiley face. And then what are they placed on? You look at that, what do those look like? And they're keys. So the answer here to this visual pun, if you're ready for the reveal, here we go. It's keys to happiness. So that's how we're going to play. So I'm just got a few of these on timed slides. We have just enough minutes before the session's slated to start. Anybody in the room can shout out in comments. So so here we go. Keep track of your own answers. And when you're ready, we'll go. Here we go. Actually, when I'm ready. So here we go. This one's easy. Started off easily. And there's 7 seconds. And then it should move forward. Another one, usually a lot of folks get this one. This is a little harder. Yes, thank you so much. Please add your answers in the chat. This is just a pre-session game. If you're just joining us, we still have the Asking the Right Questions, Unleashing Student Inquiry session up next in just a few minutes. This one should be great and easy for anyone that's read a certain series of books. Another one, rather easy. And the next one's the hardest one. Almost no one gets this one. And to be fair, it's kind of a weak visual pun, this next one, this one right here. It's kind of a see-through cityscape, kind of. That's my hint for you. What would you call a see-through cityscape? This one's kind of obvious, but since we haven't traveled much, maybe it'll be a hard one. This is luggage bags with emotions. This one is my favorite. I love this one. And, you know, if you're a fan of a certain kind of coffee and a certain kind of singer, you might recognize this one. And that's the last one. Here we go. Ready for the reveal? Now's your chance. So this one, of course, it's a slice of pie dressed like a pirate. So that one's kind of a groaner. You can officially groan at that one. The next one, someone sticking a knife into a bowl of cereal. If you're a fan of Law and Order, you might see this as a serial killer. See the different spelling of cereal there. This one is a little trickier. Get over yourself because there's a ladder so you can climb over a block of text that says yourself. If you're a fan of the Harry Potter books, this one will jump right out at you, and you have to appreciate the Deathly Hallows symbol at the top there. But this, of course, is Dumbledore. The next one, if you're a sports fan, you'll recognize this immediately as a box of tennis matches, right? So I didn't say they were great, right? I just said that this is a fun game to play to get us thinking creatively and outside the box. And here's the hard one I teased earlier. That is, of course, opacity. See, because you can kind of see through the skyscrapers. They're you know, the opacity has been lowered on them. Anyway. Okay, here we go. Last chance, wrapping paper. And then we got the luggage here. It's actually emotional baggage. Emotional baggage. And my favorite, food for thought. So if you're just joining us, we're doing a quick pre-session game. We'll get started in just about a minute. And of course, Starbucks fans will recognize the cup as a grande-sized coffee, and there's a singer named Ariana Grande. If you're of a certain age, you might know who that is. So thanks for playing. Yay! I like to start that off because it gets us into this creative mindset. I'm Mike Lawrence, and I'm thrilled to be here. I'm an education leadership executive at Jamf. I get to work with the amazing team here at Jamf and work specifically with educators, K through 12 and higher ed worldwide. And it was a thrill and an honor to be invited to speak at this back to school event. I'm just glad that the time zones worked out and I was awake when this started, and I plan on being awake at the end. So it's only 9 a.m., so it's perfect time for me. The photo in the background here, by the way, was taken by Ruben Wu. He and his team planned for 2 years for this lunar eclipse that you're seeing in the center of the image. And they set up cameras remotely all around them so that they themselves, as photographers, could enjoy the moment while all of the cameras took the preset photos at the exact right moment. And they could actually include themselves in the shot, which is a rarity. You don't usually see that. Photographers are so focused on capturing the moment in this brief little window of time that they don't ever show themselves in the shot. So I love this photo for that, because it talks about, it required Ruben to ask a lot of great questions to figure out exactly how to capture this shot. It's a deep planning. And what we're going to talk about is not lesson planning, question planning. You'll see more about that a little later. My slides for this session will be up at mavlearn.com. There's a previous version of those slides up right now, but I'll upload these slides after this session. I do this presentation a fair amount, so you'll find several iterations of these, and you'll see how my thought process has evolved. Also, if you want to find me on Twitter, I'm Tech Maverick. I've been there since the summer of '07 and enjoy using social media to connect with folks worldwide, so I'd love to meet you. Some of you may be wondering why I don't have a British accent at this moment, and that is often because I get mistaken for this gentleman, the comedian, actor, writer, Emmy and Golden Globe winning Ricky Gervais. I am not Ricky Gervais, but I do admire greatly his work and his achievements. But here's the proof. If you want to look up and find out who your celebrity lookalike is, go to celebslike.me, upload a recent photo of yourself or a not so recent photo. It's up to you. And then they'll tell you how close you match a celebrity. I was astonished to find out that I had a 99% match to Ricky Gervais. So there's that. But yes, I'm Mike Lawrence, not Ricky. I'm not putting on a fake American accent. This is my real voice. So my goal in this brief time we have together is to do 3 things. I hope that I can teach you something. I hope that you get a laugh and that you're delighted by what I present. And ultimately, I'm going to give you a gift at the end. How am I going to give you a gift virtually through this remote presentation? You'll just have to stick around and find out, but I will give you a gift. I will bestow something upon you, in fact. And so keep that in mind. What we'll talk about here is inquiry and how it leads to creativity and innovation, specifically for students in education. And so what I want to start with are these 2 punctuation marks. I used to teach high school English. All of us obviously use language and punctuation. Even if we don't use English, we might use these punctuation marks. Sometimes they might appear inverted or upside down if you use a Romance language. But this is, of course, the question mark and the exclamation point. And we've used these in English as shortcuts to capture student thinking and to get students to think about their own thinking. In some cases, I've seen this used where you have 3 characters, right? The exclamation point, question mark, and sort of a hashtag or pound symbol to represent different aspects of students thinking about their own learning. And so exclamation point would be something where they think, hey, I didn't realize this. This is new to me. Question mark is you still have questions. And the hashtag or pound symbol would be, I feel connected to this, or I feel challenged by this. So here's what this actually looks like in the school. A friend of mine, Glenn Warren, down in Encinitas, which is near San Diego, California, actually sent me this picture. And it is students responding to a lesson with their own insights. It's metacognition. It's them thinking about their own thinking, capturing that reflection on a sticky note, and then putting it up on the wall. This was back when we were in face-to-face environments. You could, of course, do this online with something like a Padlet, Jamboard. A number of different tools allow you to do this. Mural even is another tool that does this, and capture your own thinking in this process. So it's a great way to get students reflecting on their own learning. So certainly using these punctuation marks is not new, but what I propose is a slightly different punctuation mark that is a combination of these two marks. In fact, it's called an interrobang, and it combines the question mark and the exclamation mark. And I'm not making this up. This is not like my invention. I wish it was. But a guy named Martin Spector came up with this in 1962. He's a former editor who became an advertising executive. And he invented this combination of punctuation marks because he got tired of typing the exclamation mark and the question next to each other. He just put them together. And in fact, this has its own ASCII designation. You can use it in any device, mobile, laptop, desktop, any device allows you to use and insert this into your own language, so you can also save time like Martin Spector and get folks to think about how they're using punctuation. Now, I go into all of this because, and here's an example, by the way, of what it looks like. You did what? Or in español, ¿qué hiciste? I'm sorry I don't have any other language examples. I studied Spanish in school, and that's about the extent of my ability to be bilingual. But here's, by the way, the inverted version of the interrobang is called nabaretni. And the nabaretni is actually interrobang spelled backwards. So that's the upside down version of it. But I get into all of this because I believe that this punctuation mark, the interrobang, is a perfect metaphor for what education should do in the classroom. Our classrooms should inspire enthusiastic curiosity, a combination of questioning, curiosity, and an enthusiasm and an excitement about discovery of learning. If we do our jobs right as educators, then that is exactly what we will be inspiring. And here's my friend Laura and I exemplifying this sense of enthusiastic curiosity. She invited me down to her school, and she was at a district, and they were doing a science presentation, and it was on the systems of the body. And this was something that students in California study in 6th grade. And usually what they do is they get into groups and they pick a system. So one group might be studying the circulatory system, one group might study the neural system, and others digestive system and respiratory system. Each group studies it and then does a presentation. Often these are very dry, sort of standard students doing presentations in front of their peers. But what they did here that was different, that I loved, was they engaged student inquiry, and they did it in a pretty creative way. They said, let's fast forward a few hundred years, and climate change has ravaged the planet in a way that makes it difficult for humans to survive. How would the various systems of the human body need to adapt so that we could still live and breathe and eat and survive on this now radically different planet in terms of climate? Not so radical. I mean, it's just a few degrees would throw us off as humans. But the students then looked at the human systems through this urgent lens of, oh, wow, what would actually have to change? And so what you see here, by the way, I should clarify, no stuffed animals or pets were injured in the activities of these student presentations. This is a beautiful teddy bear, stuffed teddy bear, that was employed in the presentation. And you can see they have sort of the visualization of 4 separate chambers of the, I believe this is the respiratory system, 4 different chambers that have adapted in the lungs so that we can filter out toxins in the air. That was this students group's answer to what would need to adapt so that we could survive in this newly toxic atmosphere. And so I loved the fact that they were looking at it from that perspective. It was a design thinking exercise, as you can see on the screen behind the teacher. And they were covering the 6th grade science standards and looking at human body systems. They actually worked with research institutions, UC San Diego, University of San Diego, and they even reached out to a university in Australia that had done a similar study about the #1 cause of death in Australia for healthy adults was car accidents. And they said, how would the human body have to adapt to survive the impact of a 30+-mile-an-hour car accident? And they adjusted the human body so that it would withstand, but they did it through the lens of the human systems, the human body systems. And again, it's this great sort of thought exercise that puts the ownership of the learning on the students, so they get to devise what needs to change for them to survive. So here we go into the next example I wanted to share with you. My friend Ramsey Musalam is a science teacher up in the Bay Area, and he got a chance to do a TED Talk. And I flew out there. I took my son. We got to sit in the audience and watch him present. But he's a science teacher that uses student inquiry to really engage students to own their own learning. And what this looks like is he actually sends home a series of videos first. So it's kind of a flipped learning model. He's actually a leader in the flipped learning movement, but he has a very specific approach to it. He posts videos with almost no words. Here's one of his videos, and you can see that he's doing some sort of scientific phenomena, right? So he's lifting a beaker up into 2 rods and the light goes on. He also put matches in there and the color changed, and he's not saying anything. You could see that there. He's just sitting there sort of showing the phenomena, sending it home to the students, and asking the students to theorize, why is that phenomena happening? And they have the resources of the internet, they have their textbooks, they have their lecture notes from what he's shared, and they then set about coming up with a hypothesis of why they think the color is changing in the flame or the light is turning on when he lifts that up. And they run into class, sometimes literally run into class to write their hypothesis on the board first so that they can get credit for having had the right answer. And what's beautiful about this is that he welcomes all those ideas, even the wrong ideas, just because it gets kids really thinking about what's happening in the world around them and coming up with a hypothesis on how to address that. So curiosity comes first. These are the 3 rules, by the way, he came up with for his class. Curiosity comes first, and that gets that idea that students are owning their own learning. This is my problem to solve. This is my hypothesis, and I really want to see it come through and be proven correct. And then the second one is embrace the mess. Kids running into class, kids shouting out their answers. You have to embrace the messiness of that. You have to welcome in the idea that students are free to throw out ideas, even bad ideas, because it's something that we want to reinforce in the learning environment. The idea that learning can be messy and that failure is a learning environment in and of itself is a difficult concept for many teachers to get past. But once you do, you open up a huge realm of possibility for student-owned learning, for student inquiry. And of course, if you go to the 3rd step, then you really achieve that student understanding, and that's practice reflection. You can't skip this 3rd step. It's essential because that's where you actually go in. You determine which of these many hypotheses is correct. Why did the light go on? And why is that? And this idea, while wrong, why was that a good guess? And let's talk about that. And this one over here was very close, but let's talk about where it fell short. So all of those discussions, all of that staying in the actual hypothesis or the question is powerful learning, and it unlocks inquiry. I'm looking at my time here to see if I have one more example. I think I can give you one more example. And this is an example from Wales. There's a group of scientists, researchers that were studying bacteria and how to use hunter T cells to fight off bacteria. And what they found was they accidentally saw that these killer T cells that they were using actually were killing off cancer cells. Now, that wasn't what they were funded to research. They were funded to research these killer T cells working with bacteria. But what they chose to do in that moment was to continue the research. They said, you know what, this isn't what our hypothesis was about, but if it's affecting cancer cells, that's a huge deal. Let's explore this a little further. And they kept researching. And so I'm going to show you a clip of a video. Hopefully it comes through in the audio okay. Hank Green is the host of SciShow, and he talks a little bit about this moment that I just described.
And the team is also already on the hunt for other similar T cells that can kill multiple cancers. And to think this discovery would never have happened if the researchers didn't have the good sense to investigate further when some cells did something funny.
And so that doing something funny and their persistence to explore is really what I wanted to dive in and give you some tools how you can create that level of inquiry in your class. And the tool that I want to share is called Question Formulation Technique, or QFT. It comes out of the Right Question Institute. It's free for education. You can go and download all the resources you might need at rightquestion.org/education. Maybe Emily might share that URL in the chat for me. rightquestion.org/education. It has a whole shelf of resources. And as I said, it's free for you to use and download and edit and adjust and make your own for your class. And we're going to actually go through this exercise right now. I have a Padlet that's been set up, and I preloaded some of the questions in there just to give you an idea of what this looks like. But what we're going to do is look at what they call a Q focus. And this is the prompt that is going to launch you into your brainstorming. So here I am. I open a door. And what is that? Well, it looks like a robot. Why is a robot at my door? That might be your first question. So that video that you just saw there is the prompt. And if you go to the Padlet /techmaverick/robot, that will be a place where you can go and share your questions. And so it's padlet.com/techmaverick/robot. And then you'll see, like I said, I preloaded this from my last session with some ideas for you. Feel free to add your own, even if it's repetitive, that's fine. And hopefully, Emily, you can get that URL in there as well. I really appreciate your help here. And then we can see what you guys have to add. So I have a timer. This is what I recommend you do with your students. You give them these 4 guidelines. Ask as many questions as you can. Don't stop to discuss, judge, or answer the questions. That's real hard to do for some personalities. They really want to answer it. Oh, well, it's this. Oh, it's that. 3, write down every question exactly as it's stated. It's important to capture it as it's stated. And then change any statement into a question. Like, that's weird. That wouldn't be a question, right? That's just an exclamation. So let's put something in there that is actually a question. Thank you, Emily, for sharing that URL. If you just go ahead to padlet.com/techmaverick/robot, we will see what questions you are asking. Here's the timer. You got 2 minutes. Go. Minute 30. One minute remaining. By the way, you can adjust this time for the age of students you teach. I'm offering 2 because it's a 30-minute online adult professional development opportunity. You might offer 5 for younger students. It really depends on if you're virtual, if you're in person, and the age of the kids. And, of course, the quality of discussion you want to generate. Okay, less than 30 seconds. I'm going to jump over to the Padlet. I love this one. Do aliens exist? What languages do you speak? Who built you? Okay, 5 or 6 seconds left now. Fantastic. Our time is up on that. Now we move to the next stage. And sometimes it's really hard, again, not to answer or judge the questions. Right now, we're now looking at the quality of the questions. And one quality we're interested in is, are they open or closed questions? An open question is a why or a how question that can't be answered with yes or no. And obviously, a closed question can be answered with yes or no. So what I want you to do now is look at the questions that you brainstormed and determine how many are open, how many are closed. And I'm giving you a minute for this. Where are you from? That's another good open-ended question. Can't be answered with yes or no. "30 seconds. "10 seconds. Okay. For the next stage, I want you to look at your questions, find an open-ended question, make it closed, and find a closed question and make it open-ended. This is transformation. You're actually thinking about the types of questions, and it's forcing you to reevaluate them and reimagine them as a different kind of question. And it may seem, pedantic, but it is an important step in the process to think about how the questions are being asked. You have 1 minute for this part of it as well. About 30 seconds left. And you can just add it in as a comment on the Padlet if you're changing your sentence. So one was, is the robot bigger than a bread box? And someone changed that to, how big is the robot? It's a very simple way of changing a closed to an open. Are you from Apple? I like that question. Okay, time is up. And so at this point, what we would do if it were a class discussion in person or a live Zoom, I would have you get into groups, maybe breakout rooms, and look at all the questions and decide which is the most important question. So the way I'm going to do that in this conversation that we're having is I'm going to have you use the thumbs up button, only the thumbs up, no need for thumbs down. Thank you very much. The thumbs up button in Padlet. Go ahead and vote with your mouse. Which of these do you think is the most important question? And the more of you that vote for it, that will determine the most important question. And then we talk about it. Why is that most important question? Again, because of the nature of this presentation, we won't do that full discussion. But you have 30 seconds to do that. Go and click on those thumbs up. Of as many that you think are important, but don't do too many. I mean, obviously, if you did all of them, that would kind of be moot point. So 15 seconds remaining. Go ahead and use the thumbs up button in the Padlet. I'm seeing some thumbs up come in. I see one that's got 2 votes. One that's got 3. Here we go. 3 seems to be the highest vote getter right now. 2 seconds left. Last chance. Okay. Oh, I see another 3. Do aliens exist? And what are your primary functions? Seem to be the most important questions as voted by this group. Oh, and what languages do you speak? All important questions. So what I would do now if we were in person and if your mics were on is I would ask you why. Why is what languages do you speak the most important question? Why is what are your primary functions the most important question? And have a class discussion about it. And the sub question for primary functions is why were you built? Great discussion, right? So now the robot doesn't necessarily get to talk in this, but the students do. So just to satisfy your curiosity, this is not a part of the official right question formulation technique process, but I know everybody's curious about why and where and how. So here's the full video with the next part of the video. You can see what happens. So I got a phone call. I'm in a hotel.
Robot is waiting outside my door.
They said there's a robot out waiting outside your door. Notice the hatch pops open. I can't figure out orientation. There we go.
Let's see what's inside. Oh, look at that. Someone brought me breakfast.
So it's my breakfast. It's room service. So that's one answer to some of your questions. And then look at what they do, which is just so curious. The way they do this. Hello, please remove your items. So maybe it is made by Apple because it says hello first. Then it asks me, how was your stay? It gives user feedback. I'm super curious about what it would have done if I hit 1 star.
Thanks. Is this anything else?
It says bye. And now the robot turns around and it's heading out. Thank you for staying. And off it goes. Okay, so that's the rest of the video. I know you guys are super curious about that, so I wanted to throw that in there. So here's what I ask you to think about. This is the reflection. It's very similar to Ramsey's rule number 3. Reflect on your own learning. How did question formulation technique change your discussion? And how did it change your thinking? And go ahead and pick one of your questions in the Padlet and respond as a comment and tell me how your question changed. And I'll give you 1 minute to think about this. Oh, did I go too fast? I went too fast. Sorry about that. Here we go. 1 minute. And then I got to rocket through my last 12 slides. And again, these times are recommendations. This is what I wanted to give you time to do so you get to experience this. When I first did this, the cue focus, the prompt, was confirmation bias. No other information was given. And so I just kept asking question after question after question. And for this stage, I started thinking about how I opened up new dimensions around confirmation bias that I never would have considered if you just asked me, well, what are your 2 most salient points about confirmation bias? I would have just said 2 things and moved on. I wouldn't have stayed in the question. And that's really the goal here. So I'm going to move us along, and I'll go and look at your reflections in a moment on the Padlet. But what we're doing here is not lesson planning. Something I said earlier, it's question planning. My friend Ed Campos Jr., you can find him at Ed Campos Jr. on Twitter. And he coined that phrase, question planning, and I love it. It was in a keynote I saw him give. The idea that we as teachers aren't thinking about what lessons to deliver, what information to share, but what questions we want our students asking. And I took that personally, and I took it home. And my children, my own children, when I ask them after they get home from school, I don't ask them what they did at school or what they learned. I ask them, what questions did you ask? And at first I got the goofy, well, I asked to go to the bathroom. I asked if this was going to be on the test. And I kept pushing and pushing until they came home and told me they were asking better questions, because what it did is it taught them that they are in charge of their own learning. And if they aren't getting something out of a class, they need to ask questions. If they aren't understanding a concept, they need to ask questions. And I think it really helps students own their own learning. So we're going to move forward. I wanted to just tell you a little bit about Jamf, and these are some slides that I prepared for JNUC, our upcoming user conference, about Jamf Teacher and the Jamf Teacher app. And I think that this tool really gives you an opportunity to have students focus in by focusing their attention on the apps that you want them using, the websites you want them visiting. And I think it fits right into the idea of unleashing student inquiry. I know it might seem antithetical because you're actually placing limits. But if you think about it, when you place limits on something, that's when creativity soars. That's when questions and inquiry soars. It's that concept of necessity is the mother of invention. So I'm going to move us along. Make sure you all know about Jamf Educator. It's this new learning platform we launched. You should all go get your Jamf Educator badge. It's free, and you get the cool badge to display. Also, go check out our Jamf sessions. We ran a series of 12 of these over the summer. 10 of them are still up, and you can see the archived on-demand version at linktree/JamfEd. And we'll do another series in the winter. And I want your story. If you've got a great story to share about how you use Jamf solutions, reach out to me. Let me know. You can find me on Twitter at TechMaverick. And my goal at the beginning was to teach, to light, and give you something. And here's the thing that I'm going to give you.
May from the Crown and Anchor. I believe you love Ted Lasso and what the program's got to say. Well, that's no surprise, is it? It's a wonderful program, and what it says is absolutely fantastic, especially in these days. Now, I also think that you educators are blooming fantastic. I mean, teachers most important people in the world. We all remember that special teacher, don't we? I certainly do. Yes, and so do I. Good luck to all you educators. You're so important and you change people's lives. I know you would like a quote from Ted Lasso. Yeah, I'll do the quote. I know it. I will channel my raging enthusiasm into ways to help my community. Yeah. I'm not very enthusiastic about much other than pulling my pints, to be honest. Well, having a good time, but I know you have enthusiasm for more than that, and my hat goes off to you. All the very best to you. I tip my hat. Carry on, do what you're doing. You're the most important people around. All the best to you. Yes, all the very, very best. We both wish you well, and continue on into the future and get into those communities and do the very best work you can. And then have a laugh at Ted Lasso at the end of the day to relax. All the best to you. Yeah, ta-ra, all the best.
Well, thank you, Annette. That was Annette Badland, the actress who plays May on one of my favorite shows, Ted Lasso. I don't know if anyone else is loving the show, but I thought you'd appreciate her special send-off to you. That's my gift to you. I commissioned it through Cameo.com. If you haven't seen Cameo, she's on there. And I thought it'd be a great way to send you off at the end of the session. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for questioning. And I wish you the best in your question planning this school year. Thank you all so much. I think my time is up. I'm a minute over, but I almost stuck the landing. Yay. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mike. That now concludes the live sessions of our Back to School event. We're delighted that you could join us for these last 3 days. We hope they have been interesting and that you've learned something. A big thank you to all of our speakers who created all this incredible and insightful content. As you know, it has all been recorded and will be available very soon through our website. Thank you again for joining us. Feel free to get in contact with us through the resources section or through email at virtualevents@jamf.com. Look forward to hearing from you and have a lovely evening.